my yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach, and welcome back to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to crochet the Firecracker 6-inch square. It's a super cool pattern, but it can be just a little bit challenging because we are stitching on the front post for the firework portion of our square. And you'll notice I've also chosen to use a lot of different sparkle yarns from my yarn stash. And I'll talk to you more about yarns in just a second. So this is a 6-inch square. And I'm also going to show you how I joined it together into this lovely table runner and how to add a simple trim to it. I didn't want to go all fancy on the trim because I want the yarn that it's all sparkly and of course the design to be the star of our pattern today. Now you don't have to make a table runner, of course. You can use these 6-inch squares to make just about anything that you want to. Make it into a hot pad, make it into a hat, a scarf, put a bunch together, make a bag or a blanket. There's a lot of different things that you can do with these beautiful and sparkly 6-inch squares. Now, if you would like to have the written pattern with pictures, that link is provided down in the notes underneath this video. To make our Firecracker 6-inch square, I just got into my yarn stash and pulled out a bunch of different colors of sparkle yarn. There's blue and purple, gold, silver, this bright pink, white, lots of different colors that I had left over from other projects. But you don't have to use sparkle yarns. You can use any medium weight number 4 yarn. And if you want to make the table runner, you're going to need 8 squares, which is approximately 4 ounces of medium weight number 4 yarns. It's a great project for just pulling together a bunch of leftover medium weight number 4 yarns, and you can use acrylic or cotton, whatever you have on hand. Just make sure you use the same fiber for the entire project. You don't want to mix your fibers because they won't wash the same. All right, so you can use any medium weight number 4 yarns for this project. And again, I used mostly sparkle yarns. This is, I love this yarn, metallic. They have sparkle and metallic. Medium weight number 4 yarns. This white is as well, and this purple. The silver and the pink are Caron Party. And then this is a gold that I had on hand. It is a 1, and so I put the 2 strands together on this one right here for the gold sparkle. So you can do that as well. Like I said, it's a great yarn stash busting project. We're going to be stitching today with our H hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. You need a needle for weaving in ends, and then you're going to need a pair of scissors. Just a reminder, if you want to make the table runner like I did, you're going to need at least 8 of our 6-inch squares, but you can make it even longer if you have a longer table. All right, let's get started on our first square. I've got my color 1 here and my color 2 because each square you need 2 colors. I'm going to begin out of the way with my sparkle silver. I'm going to start with my slip knot and chain 5. We're going to join this chain 5 into a circle, so I'll put the tail of yarn over my hook and pull it through that loop, and then just snug that down. If you would prefer to start with the magic circle, you certainly can. We're going to place our hook in the circle, pull up a loop, and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This chain 4 counts as a double crochet, chain 1. And now we're going to stitch double crochet, chain 1. And we're going to do this till we have a total of 8 double crochets, chain 1. And remember, the first chain 4 counted as our first double crochet, chain 1. All right, let's see how many we have. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 double crochet, chain 1. I always count again just to make sure I get it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to join to the third chain of our chain 4. So for row or round 1, we have 8 sets of double crochet, chain 1. We didn't chain 3 because we're going to change to our color 2. And chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to bring back in our color 1. And we're going to front post double crochet around that chain 3, which counts as our first double crochet. We're not going to cut our yarns. We're going to be trailing them up the back of our square. So yarn over, go around the first chain 3 there that counts as our first double crochet, and we're going to begin our front post, but we're not going to finish it. We're going to leave the last 2 loops, bring back in our color 2, and pull that through, and then chain 1. All right, now we're going to go to our next double crochet, and we're going to double crochet in the top like we usually do, only we're not going to finish the last 2 loops. We're going to switch to our next color, and then we're going to front post double crochet around that stitch. And again, we're not going to finish it. We're going to bring back in that next color and chain 1. All right, and so what we're doing is we're stitching a double crochet in the top of the stitch and then front post around the post of the stitch. Now, the reason that we're finishing the stitches in that next color is we want a nice uniform stitch. If we go ahead and finish it and then change colors, you're going to have your loops offset at the top. All right, so we've chained 1. We're going to begin our double crochet, and make sure you stitch over that yarn that we're trailing across. Yarn over and just go through the first 2 loops. Then we bring it back in our color 1 and finish that double crochet. Now we're going to double crochet around the post of that stitch, and then finish it with our next color and chain 1. And again, this gives us nice crisp stitches. When we're stitching those stitches, make sure you stitch over that yarn that we're carrying across so we don't have loops hanging in the back. All right, so we're going to double crochet in the top where we usually stitch, finishing with that next color, and then front post double crochet around that same stitch. Pulled my hook too hard. There we go. And then finish with that next color and chain 1. All right, let's do another one. And see how that makes nice crisp stitches? All right, let's do one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We just have 2 more to go, so let's go ahead and do them together. That way I know for sure that you're understanding what I'm doing. Alrighty. Here's our last one. Chain 1, and now we're going to join to that chain 3. Grab that yarn there. There we go. With a slip stitch, and we'll go ahead and chain 3. All right, so for round or row 2, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 double crochets and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 front post double crochets. And don't forget those chain 1s in between each set. Now we're ready for row 3. Both colors are still attached. We've chained 3. We're going to double crochet in that same stitch with the same color. Then we'll double crochet in the top of that next stitch, and then we'll finish it with our next color. And now we're going to front post double crochet around the front post double crochet. And remember, we're going to finish that double crochet with our next color and chain 1. So now we'll have 3 double crochets and then a front post double crochet. All right, let's do another one. We'll go to the double crochet and stitch 2 double crochets. 1, 2. Then we'll double crochet in the top of our front post double crochet where we usually double crochet, and then we'll finish it with our next color. Now we're going to front post double crochet around the front post double crochet, finish our double crochet with the next color and chain 1. And again, by finishing those double crochets and that front post double crochet with the next color, we get nice crisp lines between our color changes. All right, let's do another one. And remember, you need to stitch over this tail of yarn when you're stitching those 2 double crochets. 1, 2 double crochets in the double crochet in the top of our front post, but don't finish it. Finish it with the next color, and then front post double crochet around that front post double crochet, finish it with the previous color and chain 1. All right, let's do one more. 2 double crochets in the double crochet. 1, 2, double crochet in the top of that front post, finish it with that next color, and front post double crochet around the front post double crochet, finishing back with our color 2 and chain 1. All right, see how crisp that makes that look? It makes those lines of our front post stand out and look like a firecracker. All right, I'm going to do one more with you and then let you finish the rest on your own for this row. All right, so 2 double crochets in the double crochet. 1, 2, double crochet in the top, finishing with color 1, front post double crochet around the front post double crochet, finishing with our color 2 and chain 1. Now, you will notice that your yarn's going to get a little bit twisted. So what I do at the end of each row is I just take my 2 yarns and just untwist them. And you do that just by wrapping it, or I should say unwrapping it around the yarn. When you're changing colors a lot like we're doing, you're going to get just a little bit twisted, and that can get frustrating. So just take a few minutes and untwist your yarn after each row. All right, now go ahead and repeat what we've done here on these last 3 sections. So I finished row 3. We have 3 double crochets and a front post repeated all the way around. So we have 8 of our front post stitches, and then we have 3 double crochets in between each one. Here's my last front post. I changed to my color 2. I'm going to slip stitch all the way there. There we go. And then slip stitch in the next stitch. Now we're going to drop that color and bring in our color 1 and chain 3. We'll just snug that down. And now we're going to stitch a second double crochet in that same stitch. So our chain 3 counts as 1, and then we stitched a second one. We're going to chain 1, and on this row we're only going to be using that color 1. We're chained 1, we're going to skip that next double crochet, and we're going to double crochet 2 times in the next stitch. 1 and 2, and that's going to line up with our front post stitch there. Chain 1, we'll skip the next double crochet, and then in the next double crochet stitch 2 double crochets. 1 and 2, and chain 1. Now we're going to skip that next double crochet, and we're going to form a corner in our next stitch, which again lines up with our front post double crochet. So we're going to stitch 2 double crochets, we're going to chain 2, and then stitch 2 more double crochets in that same stitch. 1 and 2, and then we'll go ahead and chain 1. Alright, so we've got 3 sets of 2 double crochet, chain 1, and then our corner, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. So we've chained 1, so we'll skip the next stitch and stitch 2 double crochets in the next. 1 and 2, and chain 1. Skip the next double crochet and stitch 2 double crochets in that next stitch, and that again lines up with our next front post. Chain 1, skip the next double crochet and stitch 2 double crochets in the next, and chain 1. Now this brings us to our next front post, and we're going to make a corner in this one. So we'll stitch 2 double crochets, 1, 2, chain 2, and 2 double crochets in that same stitch. And I'll go ahead and chain 1. And so now you can see we're forming the corners of our square. And what we did here, you need to repeat 2 more times. So you have 2 more sides and 2 more corners. I have completed those last 2 sides. So now we have 4 corners, and of course 4 sides, and each side has 3 sets of our 2 double crochets with chain 1s in between. Now we're going to join to the chain 3, and then we're going to slip stitch in that next double crochet and slip stitch into that first chain 1 space. And then we'll go ahead and cut off our color 1, and we'll bring in our color 2. Snug that down, and now we're going to chain 3, counts as our first double crochet, and then double crochet in that same chain 1 space, and chain 1. Then we'll go to the next chain 1 space and stitch 2 double crochets. Chain 1 and repeat in our next chain 1 space. 1 and 2 double crochets and chain 1. Now on this side it brings us to our first corner. And so we'll stitch our corner the same as we did here. 2 double crochets, 1, 2, chain 2, and 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. Now we'll chain 1, and this brings us to our next side. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4 chain 1 spaces. And so we'll stitch 2 double crochets, chain 1 in each of those chain 1 spaces. 1, 2, chain 1. So we now have 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of our 2 double crochets, chain 1, and this brings us to our corner. And we stitch that exactly the same. 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and chain 1. And so what you're going to do is repeat what we did here. 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of 2 double crochets with our chain 1s in between, and then the corner, and we'll do that on these last 2 sides. I completed those last 2 sides of 4 sets of our 2 double crochets in our chain 1 spaces with chain 1s in between and our corners. We ended on a corner, but you'll notice up here we only have 3 sets of our 2 double crochets. So after our corner, we're going to chain 1, go in that chain 1 space, and stitch 2 double crochets, and chain 1. Then we'll join to our chain 3 with a slip stitch. And I've already cut my yarn, so cut your yarn. And then we'll just pull that loop to the back so it's nice and tidy. And then we'll need to weave that end in. We have 2 here and then 2 where we joined at the beginning. Now, you're going to have a square that's approximately 6 inches. All right, if it's a little too tight, then you may need to loosen up your gauge. If it's too big, then you might need to tighten up. And you can do that by going up or down a hook size. But if it's a little over, like 6 1/4, or 5 3/4, it's okay. All right, it's still going to make a lovely square and table runner. So for our last row, you're going to have 4 sets of our 2 double crochets with chain 1s in between on each of our sides, and then of course our 4 corners. Now we just need to take a minute and weave in all our ends with our needle, and then I'm going to show you how to join your squares together. To make the table runner, again, you're going to need 8 or more squares in increments of 2 squares for each row. And I'll show you that a little bit better when I show you the table runner again. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take 2 squares, you're going to put them together with the right sides facing out. All right? You'll line up your squares. And I'm using this color just so that you can see what I'm doing. On the original runner, I used a purple like this to hook all my squares together, and the trim as well. But I'm using this color so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to grab that yarn and pull it through. And I'm going through the corner of both squares. Again, the right sides facing out. All right, now in this square, we're going to stitch 2 single crochets. 1, 2, right in that first corner of our squares. Now we're going to chain 2, and we're going to go to the first chain 1 space and go through both sides and stitch 2 single crochets. Chain 2, go to the next chain 1 space and stitch 2 single crochets. This is how that's going to look. All right, and we'll just work this across. If you want that trim to lay a little flatter, you can always stitch slip stitches in there instead of single crochets. I'm going for a little bit more of a fancy look, so I want it to stand up a little bit. All right, here's my last. Chain 1 space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chain 1 spaces, and then we're at the corner. I need to do my chain 2, and now we're at the chain 2 space of the corner, and we'll stitch 2 single crochets. All right, so let's open that up, and that's the way that that should look. It's going to have a little bit of a ridge, and that's what I'm looking for on mine. Again, if you don't want that little fancy ridge there, you can do a slip stitch instead of a single crochet. All right, and so what you'll do is you'll go ahead and cut that, tie that off, and just take a second to weave that to the inside. Now the reason that you need to add your squares in increments of 2 is because we're adding them in a stair-step fashion. And so you'll need 2 together, and then we'll add them on the same way we did with the 2 together. You'll just add it on here. Okay, so here's the last 2 on this one, and so then I would take this and put it here and add it on the exact same way that we did with the 2 here. All right, and that's why we need to have 2 put together, and then we add the next one here. And again, you'll add that with the right sides facing out. Now this one I've already added the trim, and it's a really simple trim, and I'm going to show you how I did that on the 2 that we just made together, and I'll show you how simple that trim is. Now you can add a much fancier trim if you want to. I just wanted a simple single crochet trim. And so what you'll do is you'll just add your yarn in. You'll stitch a single crochet in each of the 2 double crochets, and then you'll stitch a single crochet in the chain 1 spaces. And you'll just do that all the way across. Nothing fancy. And if you want to add, shells or picot stitches, or anything that you want, baubles, whatever you like, you certainly can. I do suggest that you add the single crochet trim first before you add any fancy trim, just so that it gets a nice shape and holds its shape. Now, when you get to the corner, and let me show you with this other one. When you get to the inside corner, you're just going to work around there the same way. You're just going to continue to single crochet up. And then when you get to your outside corner, you're going to stitch a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in that outside corner. And that's going to help that outside corner move smoothly around and hold its shape. All right? So on the inside corners of our table runner, you're just going to continue single crocheting the same. And then on all the outside corners or outside points, you'll stitch a single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet in those chain 2 spaces. And again, that's going to give it a nice sharp point so that it holds its shape. So you can stitch up a bunch of these Firecracker 6-inch squares, make a pillow, make a bag, make a decoration, whatever you want, or you can make a really super cute and interesting table runner. And again, you can do these in any colors that you want for any occasion. We just called it the firecracker square because the center of our square looks like a burst of fireworks. It's a really fun pattern. It is a little bit tricky for the first couple rows, but once you figure that out, it moves along really quickly, and it's a great way to use up leftover yarn scraps from your yarn stash.